Here's a small detail that most people scrolled past. In January, some Amazon employees in the cloud division received an email by accident. It wasn't supposed to go out yet. It referenced organizational changes and mentioned that impacted colleagues had already been notified. Except they hadn't been, not yet. The email was premature, a glitch, a system that jumped ahead of the humans managing the message. And somehow, that feels like a perfect metaphor for everything that's happening right now. Because what we're watching unfold across Amazon, Oracle, and Meta isn't just another cycle of tech layoffs. It isn't just cost-cutting dressed up in corporate language. Something structurally different is happening, and it's moving faster than almost anyone predicted, including the people inside these companies. Let me walk you through it. Not the headlines, the pattern underneath.
Amazon cut 14,000 corporate jobs in October 2025. Then, just 3 months later, in January 2026, they cut another 16,000. That's roughly 30,000 corporate and tech roles eliminated in under 4 months. About 10% of their entire white-collar workforce gone. CEO Andy Jassy didn't hide the reason. He said plainly, "We will need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today, and more people doing other types of jobs." The company framed it as removing bureaucracy, flattening layers, increasing ownership. And yes, those are real organizational goals, but they announced those cuts in the same breath as a $125 billion capital expenditure forecast for 2026. The highest of any mega cap company, and almost entirely directed at AI infrastructure and data centers. They're not shrinking, they're reshaping, and the shape they're moving toward has fewer people in it than Oracle. On March 31st, 2026, Oracle laid off up to 30,000 employees. Roughly 18% of its entire global workforce wiped out in a single day. Not a handful of teams, not one struggling division. The cuts hit Oracle Health, NetSuite, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Sales, Customer Success, and Security. TD Cowen estimated those cuts would free up $8 to $10 billion in annual cash flow. And where does that cash go? Directly into a $50 billion AI infrastructure build-out funded through debt and equity. Oracle stock was already down 25% this year. Investors weren't panicking about the layoffs. They were panicking about the debt being raised to fund AI. The layoffs were the solution to the panic. People were the line item that got erased to make the math work. And then there's Meta. Reuters reported in mid-March that Meta is planning layoffs affecting up to 20% of its workforce. That's potentially 15,000 to 16,000 people out of roughly 79,000. This from a company that already cut 21,000 employees between 2022 and 2023 during what Zuckerberg called the year of efficiency. Now there's a second wave, and this time Zuckerberg was more explicit about the reason. He said he's starting to see projects that used to require big teams now be accomplished by a single very talented person. Meanwhile, Meta plans to spend $600 billion building data centers by 2028 and has been offering AI researchers pay packages worth hundreds of millions of dollars to join a new superintelligence team. So let's just sit with the numbers for a second. Between Amazon, Oracle, and Meta alone, we're looking at roughly 75,000 jobs either already eliminated or in the process of being eliminated in one quarter at 3 companies, and the tech sector as a whole reported over 33,000 layoffs in just the first 2 months of 2026, a 51% increase from the same period the year before. By the end of Q1, the number crossed 45,000 globally, with AI cited as the driving force in at least one out of every batch of cuts. Now, here's where this gets more unsettling than the raw numbers suggest. Most people hear AI layoffs and imagine robots replacing workers. They picture some advanced system that can literally do someone's job end to end. And since the system isn't quite there yet, they assume the threat is still theoretical, distant, a few years away. That assumption is wrong. And the reason it's wrong is the most important thing I can tell you in this video. Harvard Business Review published a piece in January 2026 with a title that should have gotten far more attention than it did. The title was, "Companies are laying off workers because of AI's potential, not its performance." Read that again. Companies are not waiting for AI to actually be able to do the jobs. They are cutting headcount now based on the belief that AI will be able to do them soon enough. They're making bets. They're placing wagers on a capability curve that hasn't fully arrived yet. And the people being let go are paying the cost of that speculation today. This is a crucial distinction. It means the layoffs aren't trailing the technology, they're leading it. Companies are preemptively restructuring their workforces around a future that they believe is coming, whether or not the tools are ready right now. And that changes the timeline dramatically. Because when the displacement is driven by expectation rather than proven capability, it doesn't need to wait for the technology to mature. It only needs executives to be convinced. And right now, they are very, very convinced. Jack Dorsey cut nearly half of Block's entire staff and explicitly pointed to AI tools and their growing ability to help companies do more with smaller teams. Ford's CEO Jim Farley estimated AI would eliminate literally half of all white-collar workers within a decade. Anthropic's CEO Dario Amodei said AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs within 1 to 5 years. These aren't fringe predictions from people trying to sell newsletters. These are the people running the companies. They're telling you what they're planning to do, and then they're doing it. So why is it moving faster than expected? Part of the answer is structural. The Atlantic published a long and deeply reported piece pointing out that previous waves of technology, electrification, computerization, the internet, all took decades to fully reshape the labor market because they required physical infrastructure, hardware integration, and system rewrites. AI is different. Because many AI systems don't require massive new hardware at the deployment level or human engineered system overhauls, the rollout time shrinks by as much as 50% compared to previous general purpose technologies. That's not a subtle acceleration. That's a compression of a generational shift into something that could play out within a few years. The International Monetary Fund projects that AI will affect roughly 40% of jobs worldwide, not just in tech, across the entire economy. And their models were built before this most recent wave of agentic AI tools that can chain tasks, interact with software, and manage workflows semi-autonomously. But there's another force at work here that doesn't get talked about enough. And that's the financial incentive structure. Look at Oracle. Their stock was falling. Investors were worried about the debt load from AI spending. So what did Oracle do? They cut 30,000 people to free up $8 to $10 billion in cash flow. The layoffs weren't primarily about AI replacing those workers' tasks. They were about funding AI infrastructure. The humans didn't lose their jobs to a machine that could do their work. They lost their jobs so the company could afford to buy the machines. That's a different kind of displacement, and it's one that almost no one is framing correctly. At Amazon, the same dynamic exists. The $125 billion CapEx budget needs to come from somewhere. Flattening management layers and removing what they call bureaucracy is partly a real organizational improvement and partly a financial rebalancing, shifting the cost structure from people to compute. At Meta, the $600 billion data center plan is funded in part by the efficiencies Zuckerberg expects from having fewer, more AI-augmented workers. The spending creates the pressure to cut. The cuts create the savings to spend. It's a self-reinforcing loop, and it accelerates faster than any single technology adoption curve would predict on its own. This is why AI will create more jobs than it destroys, a claim you still hear constantly, misses the timing problem. Even if that's true in the long run, and there are reasonable arguments that it might be, it doesn't help the 30,000 Oracle employees who got termination emails at 6 in the morning on March 31st. The long run is a luxury that individual careers can't always afford. Now, I want to be honest about something. There is a counter argument here, and it deserves to be taken seriously. Some economists and researchers argue that AI adoption is still early, that overall unemployment remains low, and that the historical pattern is for technology to create new categories of work that we can't currently imagine. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report suggests that while 92 million jobs might be eliminated by 2030, 170 million new roles could emerge. BCG projects that 50 to 55% of US jobs will be reshaped by AI, not necessarily eliminated. And there's a real difference between reshaping and replacing. That's fair. And I don't think anyone should fall into pure doom thinking. But here's the problem with the optimistic framing. It treats the labor market like a clean spreadsheet where losses in one column automatically become gains in another. In reality, the people losing jobs at Oracle's health division or Amazon's corporate operations or Meta's recruiting teams are not automatically qualified for the new AI infrastructure roles being created. The skills don't transfer overnight. The geographic distribution doesn't match. The seniority levels don't align. And many of the new roles being created are either highly specialized AI engineering positions or lower paid service jobs that represent a significant step down for displaced mid-career professionals. The transition cost is real, even if the destination is eventually positive. And right now, we're in the transition. So what does this actually mean if you're a working professional watching this? First, understand the new math. Companies are not evaluating headcount the way they used to. The question used to be, can this person do their job well? Now the question is, can this person's output be partially or fully replicated by a system that costs a fraction of their salary? And increasingly, for roles that involve research, reporting, drafting, coordination, data analysis, customer communication, and even certain kinds of engineering, the answer is trending toward yes. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to justify reducing team sizes. Second, recognize that middle management is uniquely exposed. The flattening language that Amazon and Meta keep using isn't just about culture. It's about removing the coordination layer that AI is beginning to handle. When tools can summarize, route, prioritize, and track across teams, you need fewer humans whose primary job is to facilitate information flow between other humans. If your role is mostly about synthesis, translation, and cross-functional alignment, not direct creation or direct decision-making, you should be paying very close attention. Third, stop waiting for the official signal. One of the most dangerous patterns I see is professionals who watch these headlines, feel a brief pang of anxiety, and then go back to their routines because it hasn't happened to them personally yet. But these layoffs didn't come with warning. The Oracle employees got emails at 6 a.m. The Amazon employees got accidentally CC'd on a premature announcement. The Meta plans were leaked to Reuters before most employees even knew. By the time it's your turn, the decision has already been made. The planning happens in rooms you're not in, on spreadsheets you'll never see. Fourth, build your value around what AI makes more valuable, not what AI makes cheaper. If AI can generate a first draft, your value isn't in drafting. It's in judgment, taste, context, stakeholder navigation, and knowing what questions to ask. If AI can analyze data, your value isn't in pulling reports. It's in interpreting ambiguity, managing risk, and communicating decisions to humans who need to trust you. The premium is shifting from execution to discernment, from output to ownership. Fifth, diversify your professional identity. If your entire career narrative is tied to one company, one platform, one tool, or one industry, you're fragile. The people who navigate these shifts best are the ones who've built skills, relationships, and reputation across multiple domains. They're not just a Meta PM or an Oracle engineer. They're a person who solves a particular type of problem, and they can do it in multiple contexts. That portability is becoming one of the most undervalued career assets. And sixth, and this one is less tactical, more philosophical, start grieving the old model. The implicit contract that said, get educated, get skilled, get hired, do good work, and the system will take care of you. That contract has been quietly voided. It wasn't canceled in one dramatic moment. It eroded through a series of organizational changes and efficiency initiatives and strategic realignments. Every round of layoffs dissolved a little more of it. The professionals who adapt fastest are the ones who stop waiting for the contract to be honored and start building on different assumptions. There's a line from the Atlantic's reporting that I keep thinking about. They wrote that the deepest challenge AI poses may not be to jobs at all, but to political institutions that have already shown how brittle they can be. That's a sobering observation because it means this isn't just a career problem, it's a societal one. And societies that don't build mechanisms to manage rapid workforce transitions don't just create unemployment, they create instability. But here's the thing about instability. It's not uniformly distributed. Some people get crushed by it. Others see it coming and reposition. Not because they're smarter, because they're paying attention, because they took the signal seriously before they became personal, because they started adjusting when adjusting was still a choice, not a necessity. 75,000 jobs across 3 companies in 1 quarter, a 51% year-over-year increase in tech layoffs, CEOs openly saying AI will replace half of their white-collar workforce, companies cutting people not because AI can do their jobs today, but because executives believe it will do them tomorrow, and a financial incentive structure that turns every dollar saved on payroll into a dollar invested in the very systems that make the next round of cuts possible. This is not a drill. This is not a cycle. This is a structural repricing of human labor in knowledge work, and it is happening faster than the most aggressive timelines predicted even 18 months ago. The people who come through this well won't be the ones who panicked, and they won't be the ones who ignored it. They'll be the ones who looked clearly at what was happening, understood the forces driving it, and made deliberate choices about where to stand when the ground shifted. That's the only real strategy. Not optimism, not pessimism, clarity. If this gave you something to think about, consider subscribing. These conversations are going to matter more, not less, in the months ahead.